All right, today I want to talk a little bit about Microsoft, specifically rumors that are going around right now with Microsoft looking to make a big move for Xbox. That mostly has to do with a really big acquisition. Think on the same level of like Zenimax and Bethesda. Remember one morning everyone woke up and Microsoft was like, oh yeah, we acquired Zenimax and Bethesda. All those IPs you associate to them, I don't know, like maybe Fallout or Elder Scrolls. Yeah, those are all part of Microsoft Studios right now, and they're already leveraging that acquisition with Starfield being a Game Pass exclusive title, not going to the PlayStation. So now everyone's thinking, okay, who is Microsoft going to acquire next? There are a lot of ideas out there, and I'm also going to talk about who I think it's going to be. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So first of all, let's talk about where a lot of this is coming from. Now, this is Okami Games over on Twitter who started taking screenshots of different people who were kind of hinting and teasing towards this. For example, there's what's this, Skulls, saying that they predict a lot of internet lawyers debating monopoly laws, going over crazy rumors regarding another huge potential Microsoft acquisition. There was Tom Warren who posted up little Cookie Monsters like waiting. And then we had ACG, and I did notice this tweet, but I mean, I guess we're coming up on a month now, and some of these acquisitions take a while to develop anyway, kind of in the background. But he said, looks like another purchase is heading into getting announced within 1 month. That is pretty big. I suppose at this time, we just need to assume 4 gaming companies own everything. And I'll tell you this, there does appear to be something happening with Microsoft when it comes to an acquisition. It probably doesn't surprise anyone. We've seen Sony make acquisitions recently, but they're not necessarily for like an intellectual property, not like buying a studio or a publisher because they have a bunch of IPs. They're buying studios that I think make sense for PlayStation to buy for more utility purposes. Like an example is Nix's. They bought Nix's seemingly to help port games like to PC. We saw what happened with Horizon Zero Dawn. Wasn't a great launch on PC for Sony. They have since fixed it, but if you can bring in a studio that is good at porting games to PC, or at least decent, certainly better than their first outing they had with Horizon Zero Dawn, then you bring them in so they can help you and maybe other studios can learn from them, or they can just work to run support if need be. That makes sense. Microsoft is not buying a studio or publisher for that. They're buying it for a wealth of IPs and, yes, the development force that comes with it. Like, take the ZeniMax and Bethesda acquisition. Sure, a lot of intellectual properties came with ZeniMax. However, they did get a lot of developers who are very good at what they do. Arcane just released Deathloop, and that game is fun. It is a good game. Obviously, we're looking at Starfield going, okay, this is going to be from Bethesda. We expect it to be pretty good, especially if you're someone who's a fan of like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. You're hearing about this, and you're like, wait, this could be Elder Scrolls in space. Yeah, I'm there. I'm going to pick that one up. So who would we see Microsoft look to make a move and acquire? Well, one of the leading candidates, and I have a hard time believing this one, it goes back a while, and that's Take-Two. I have a hard time believing it's Take-Two, mostly because I don't know why Take-Two would want to be acquired, considering they just do Grand Theft Auto 5 and make a stupid amount of money for it. Grand Theft Auto 5 came out 8 years ago, by the way. It was September 17th, 2013. Who'd have thought 8 years later we'd be talking about Grand Theft Auto 5 getting delayed into 2022. Not me. But I guess if you look at it this way, Take-Two would cost more money than ZeniMax and Bethesda. I think it'd be quite a bit more money. But Grand Theft Auto 6 being a Game Pass exclusive, if you want to take Game Pass to the next level or accelerate Game Pass adoption, I don't know any other game that's going to do it faster than Grand Theft Auto 6. When that game gets announced, it is going to be hyped out of control. It's going to be unbelievable how much hype is going to follow Grand Theft Auto 6, right? So maybe if you're Microsoft and you look towards the future and realize this is going to be a 20-year thing for them with Game Pass, they're like, you know what, maybe it is worth the tens of billions of dollars it would take to acquire Take-Two. Maybe they can justify it there, but I think there could be better options for them. Another one that comes up is EA. EA, I think, is kind of in the same boat as Take-Two. Do they really want to be acquired? I mean, they're doing Madden, and it's working for them. It just topped the NPD sales charts, and, like, it's still Madden every year, right? So I don't know if EA is really jumping up and down like, ooh, pick us. but it could be Sega. I feel like every time Microsoft and acquisitions come up, Sega comes up. I think everyone just wants Microsoft to buy Sega and just get it over with, right? It's like, look, just throw them a bone. Okay, Sega's had a hard time. They don't know what they're doing with Atlas, it seems. I mean, Atlas knows what they're doing when they create games, but like, how do you get surprised that you put a game like Persona 4 Golden on Steam and it sells well at $20? Like, how does that shock you? It's weird to me, some of these decisions that Sega makes. Then we see some of the development concerns around these games that are coming out. Like we saw what happened with Sonic Colors Ultimate. And yeah, some people are like, maybe it is time for Sega to get acquired. I saw some people bring up Square Enix. I don't really know if Square Enix would get acquired by Microsoft. I know there's a whole thing around like if you're going to acquire a Japanese company, but Microsoft did almost buy Capcom. It's a story that kind of goes around here and there, but for a while there, Capcom was in some trouble, and apparently Microsoft was this close to acquiring them, but Monster Hunter World worked out, so Capcom was fine after that. And then we see Resident Evil is certainly on a big upswing now. So Capcom seems to be good. They don't really need to be acquired now. At least they don't feel like being acquired. I've also seen WB Games brought up, and this one would work, I feel like, if Microsoft was looking more for studios rather than just a bunch of intellectual properties. I mean, if they bought WB Games, you would see Mortal Kombat go to Microsoft because of NetherRealm Studios. However, whenever you see Batman, for example, developed under the WB Games name, that's generally like a contract that's set up. They don't actually own the Batman IP. But, I mean, if Microsoft bought WB Games, maybe all of the studios underneath them with like Rocksteady, TT Games, and all of the other WB Games studios, then maybe they would also kind of get the end for some of those contracts around characters like Batman, and they can set up kind of their own superhero under the Xbox brand. So if I look around at a publisher or a studio that would bring value to Microsoft, probably cost about the same, I think, as ZeniMax and Bethesda, maybe a little more, it would be Ubisoft. See, I think that would still be a pretty big announcement. Microsoft acquires Ubisoft, which means Assassin's Creed would just be part of Game Pass. It wouldn't be going to PlayStation anymore. And then you look at things like Rainbow Six. Well, if they do go beyond Rainbow Six Siege, will that game just be part of Game Pass? Because we see like Extraction, that's kind of like a spin-off of Rainbow Six there. So maybe more of those kind of projects would be Far Cry, that could come out in the future. They could do different things with The Division, which are already planned. And then you kind of go back into their legacy catalog of games, and maybe Game Pass would allow them to finally create another Splinter Cell title. Possible. Maybe they go back and they create a new Prince of Persia game if the Sands of Time remake works out. Games like Ghost Recon and Assassin's Creed and a lot of these live service games that we see Ubisoft do would make sense in Game Pass, because there is still a factor of the post-download, I guess we'll call it, rather than post-purchase spend, where there are microtransactions in these games that would then work to generate additional revenue outside of just Game Pass subscriptions. And the games are designed to have you play them for long periods of time. I mean, Watch Dogs Legion is a game that feels way longer than it should be. And there is something else to that acquisition. I want to take you over here. This is the Ubisoft Plus page. Now, the idea here is you can spend $15 a month and you would then be subscribed to the service and have access to a bunch of games from Ubisoft's past. And I mean, there are a lot on here. Like, it's over 100 games. And I mean, look, Uno's right there, right? Now, I mean, like, they have like Starlink in there, which is cool. All the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry's, all that in here. But something you'll notice if you want to go play a game, like let's scroll up here and maybe we want to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Interesting. There's Stadia and Luna. Microsoft considers their main competitor right now, not necessarily being PlayStation, although it's still a competitor. For what Microsoft is working towards, it's more the streaming future with games. If you could buy Ubisoft, add all of their IPs to your own overall brand, and then block Stadia and Luna from having access to all of these Ubisoft games that they currently do through Ubisoft Plus, That'd be a pretty big move. You see, we know Microsoft likes to be, the good guys, right, in gaming, and they're just really nice to Nintendo and Sony and all of this, and they just want to work together with everyone. But the one company, or the two companies I would say that Microsoft would be more petty towards, would be Google and Amazon when it comes to Stadia and Luna, because they would consider them their main competitors over the next 10 to 15 years as all this game streaming stuff continues to evolve. So that's just kind of an extra piece to it. I just feel like Microsoft, if they were shopping around to make a big-time acquisition to bolster their lineup of IPs as well as their overall development force in order to release game after game after game pretty much monthly, Ubisoft makes sense. And we already see them making a big push with Game Pass because Windows 11 is going to just have it built in natively. I mean, think about that. If you just have Windows 11, and there are a lot of people who use Windows, it'll just be down there in the taskbar. Maybe one day you go down there and you look at it and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. I can just stream games. My computer doesn't have to be like up to a certain spec. And then you sign up. That's kind of what Microsoft is looking at here. They've integrated the gaming side in with Windows much more than ever before. And in order to continue pushing that forward, they will have to make these sizable acquisitions, especially as they continue to drive up their subscription number. If they get to a point where they have 100 million subscribers to Game Pass Ultimate, and they're paying subscribers, not ones that find it for like a week off of a Pop-Tarts wrapper or something, but they get to that point, they'll also have plenty of money to spend just from Game Pass subscriptions for these kind of acquisitions, whether it is entire publishers and studios or even third-party like timed exclusives or just outright exclusives for Game Pass. So it's something to think about there. I understand Take-Two is that big glamorous one for Microsoft because then GTA 6 is exclusive to Game Pass, which would still be very hard to wrap my mind around. But the number of titles Ubisoft has in their back catalog that could just be added to Game Pass immediately is substantial. And I think it would cost less by quite a bit than Take-Two. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Do you think there is a big acquisition coming for Microsoft? And if so, who do you think they're going to pick up? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.